Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups, about small business, ideas, tools, and advice to help you operate your business more effectively. On today's show, it is a new year, and many of us make New Year's resolutions. And in business, it's often, how are we going to get more productive? How are we going to get more efficient? And we are here to help. Today, we have friend of the podcast and tech geek, Todd Lyden, with us to talk about productivity tips, apps, programs, other stuff that you might want to use to become more productive and efficient in 2024. Plus, we'll be highlighting some small businesses on our Small Business of the Month feature, businesses that you should be checking out. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host, director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is executive dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. Gary, how you doing?
Jeff, thanks for that great introduction. Doing really well. We had a great holiday. Hope everyone had a great holiday season. And we are actually feeling that it is wintertime.
It is wintertime in North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah, we're recording this in early January. There's a bad weather advisory, which means we'll get some rain.
That's right.
If we go further up the East Coast, it could be nasty.
And we're actually looking at canceling or postponing classes because of the threat of a little bit of sleet, a little bit of snow. Yes, we are.
When?
Well, we have classes on Saturdays still.
Okay. Well,
it won't affect too many people. But
okay. All right. So
it does affect the people that are wanting to come to class.
Oh, well.
That's okay. That's a good thing.
All right. Well, you call us when we have no class, Gary.
You want me to call in?
Okay.
You mean you don't care because it's a Saturday?
I'm planning on hunkering down. I'm going to get some firewood and get ready to hunker down. So, Gary, do you make New Year's resolutions?
I do.
And is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, the one I told you before we got on. I'm going to stop doing stupid things so I don't hurt my back anymore.
How's that going?
So far, so good. But it's the 5th? That's good. That's better than I usually last on my resolutions.
Okay. Well, good for you. Well, yeah. I hope that you're able to follow through on that one.
Me too. So does my family.
Oh, good deal. Good deal.
I'm not a good patient.
Well, let's welcome our guest,
yes.
Todd Lyden, who is with us and has been with us at the beginning of the year for the last several years. Todd, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
And Todd, in the last year, you are still a small business center director here in North Carolina, but you've moved to the largest small business center in our state, the Wake Tech Community College Small Business Center that's in Raleigh, Cary, I'm not totally sure, somewhere down in that part of the state.
Congratulations, Todd.
Thank you. Yeah, we have sites all over Wake County. I'm at the Cary location. Of course, the original location is just south of Raleigh. So, and brand new location out in Wendell, which will be open in the fall. And then just broke ground on another location that will basically replace where I'm at. We're in rented space, and we'll be moving into a new space going out towards Apex.
Oh, sounds like you will be busy.
Yes, a lot of growth.
I do what they tell me to do, and just try to keep track of everything that's going on here.
And just to remind our listeners, in your role as small business center director, what sort of stuff do you do there?
Well, I think the best thing we do is get the lay of the land. I think that's one of the beauties of our system is that we're unique to the areas we're at. So I went from one of the most rural locations where it was very different in terms of the audience and the needs to Wake, which feels like a huge microcosm of the entire state. We still have some of the same concerns, but then the ones that I've heard my counterparts talk about year in and year out. And so it's just a matter of knowing what folks need here. And I've spent the last year, it's crazy, I think it's almost been a year, just learning. The beauty here is that there's so many great resources and so many outside partners to work with that it really does make it easier, because we do get, on average, about 3 direct requests a day coming in without even trying. We don't advertise particularly hard. We don't market pretty. We don't have to market too hard, and we get a lot of requests.
And those requests are coming from folks who are starting businesses, looking for support, guidance, probably money every now and then.
Most of them are looking for money. It's usually, I would say, about 2/3 at least, or their point is to get a business plan or something so that they can eventually go for funding of some sort.
Yeah, and here in North Carolina, we're very fortunate to have resources like our small business center network, where we've got small business centers at each community college throughout the state to help folks who are in startup mode or help existing small businesses. So if you're in North Carolina, you should check them out at your local community college if you're looking for that sort of assistance. So appreciate the work that you do, Todd.
Thank you. Well, I know you know the work. So
I've done some of that in a past life, but I'm appreciative of what you do, and shockingly, we don't bring you on the podcast, for your dashing good looks. We bring you on the podcast because more so than most people that we know, you seem to be keeping up with tools and things that can help startups and small businesses, and you're up to speed on various productivity things. Last year, you were babbling about something called AI, which Gary and I had to Google.
That's right.
Found that it stands for artificial intelligence, and Gary and I were taking copious notes on our yellow pads and using our abacuses to do calculations. But it turns out you were onto something with this AI thing.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I mean, it was
and I must say that even I use some Chat GPT. I hope I said that right. Do some things, and played around with it a little bit and found some benefit to it. So
very good.
We'll drag you there too, Gary.
You think so?
We'll see.
We'll try.
We'll see. But we Todd, we always like to get your thoughts and perspectives on tools, and we were talking a little earlier. It sounds like you're still delving into the AI tools that might be of assistance to startups and small businesses. So what do you see on the radar for the coming year?
Well, I mean, one of the things I did is I went back and looked because I keep this presentation, and like we've talked about in the past, I kind of refresh it. There's not too much to refresh it in terms of. In fact, a couple of years ago, I remember we retired a couple of things because you'd asked me for a recommendation. Like we got a Hall of Fame of different tools and things that are still out there. But the interesting thing with clients now is they still need those same types of tools and things that'll help them get the jobs done, but the thing they have to be very aware of, and we were just getting into it last year when we started talking about this, because at that point, the Chat GPT 3 had only just been released a couple months beforehand and had started to make some headway. And then, of course, in the last year, I mean, it's become ubiquitous now that if you don't, and that's the thing of going back through some of the tools.
Did he swear at us? Ubiquitous?
Not as far as you know. You can look that one up later. Yeah.
Sorry to throw you off, Todd.
Thanks for ChatGPT for answering questions. But to look at what these things do, because one of the interesting things we had when I first got here right out of the gate, I sat through a pitch where they basically went, we're a marketing firm and we want to incorporate AI into everything we do, and we need extra funding for that, which makes sense on the front end, but they were going to then up their rates and increase their stuff to, and they couldn't explain how what they were really looking at is getting the efficiencies in their own business by using AI through all their marketing that they do for other businesses, of course. And so that's the thing that folks have to really understand, is that there's a cost to any of them being added, whether it's to and that's the thing I wanted to take a look at real quick, is that ChatGPT, of course, at a free level, which is probably what you've used. I mean, otherwise it's about $20 a month for an individual to pop on and get their next level, pro level access, is only really good in as much as it allows you to do certain things. Whereas, and of course, Bing is built off of that. That's why Microsoft put so much investment into it, because all of their stuff now, if you go to Bing, right there's a Chat GPT search built into the search function now, and it'll do most of the things that you could do directly with Chat GPT at the free level. And if the tools don't have them baked into them where they can be, the software is already behind, in essence. Especially if you're talking about things like composing emails, writing newsletters, anything with verbiage can be produced pretty quickly and easily, at least that, if you've played with it at a template level, and then to answer some basic questions. A couple of really good examples we used here was when we first started playing with it a little bit, was putting in there, as a small business advisor, develop a plan. And we ran it through all the different, the three major, Chat GPT, and then of course Google changed the layout in the last year by unleashing what they call Bard, and now it's baked into all of their products. Running it through that, and then the different AIs to ask the same question. Okay, put together a core business plan for this and see what the differences were. And they were all pretty much about the same, but it does reveal some of the differences, and you can do some of the searches and see how Bard is a little bit different at a basic level than ChatGPT, because it's actually still linked to the internet functionally. So, for example, one of the things I asked it to do was how would we improve the SEO of our Small Business Center Network website? And they both came up with about the same list of recommendations, but Bard, because it was actually attached to the internet, made direct suggestions with websites and other things that you could do that ChatGPT, because it's not at that basic level connected to the internet, would do.
So you're saying Bard was getting more specific or more customized suggestions for your specific website, as opposed to just have more links or do this or do that.
Yeah, again, it produced very similar results in terms of the recommendations, but then it got it, and it's also way more conversational right out of the gate. It acts like it knows you way too quickly. And that's the thing to remember about most of these, is that it's about adapting to learning you and your needs as you use it more and more often. So if you have a specific account, that's why it saves the conversations. So it now has memory of conversations with you, asking how you ask things and what you're trying to ask, right? So that's the benefit for anything that is in this administrative text to speech or speech to text. So, for example, one of the things I tested out when you reminded me you wanted to do this was I ran the podcast through one of the summarizer sites. And there's a ton of those now. You've probably seen and probably had offers for a lot of these podcast summary sites where, for a minimal cost, they'll go in and produce a summary, produce the show notes, and basically they're just producing a transcript and then analyzing that transcript, right?
Well, we think that we're working with a human producer, but we don't know that for sure. We're sort of behind the curtain like eyes, so we can't confirm.
We haven't
this.
seen him.
Yeah, we haven't seen him lately, but we think he's still kicking.
But see, that's one of the great things about anything like this, where it's so much easier now. You run the audio through, it pulls a transcript that's probably 98% correct, and then it can then easily summarize it into some quick and dirty notes, which is perfect for things like if you have long meetings, anything where you want to retain. So we're almost at a point where we could be recording calls with clients and then have an easier way of summarizing them, or you could do that for yourself, for any sort of business.
Okay. Well, that's, I've been using it more on if I need to do a new job description or something like that. And, and it's been
pretty good.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's sort of given me something that, 80% I can work with. I have to do a little tweaking, but it does a lot of the work for me.
So that's a time saver.
It's a time saver. Yeah.
Productivity, right? That's it. That's the whole point, is that, and what I keep reminding folks is that almost everything you're using now should or doesn't, it should have it baked in without much additional cost, because most of it is predicated on a volume in, volume out in terms of the analysis of the verbiage, right? So it's like ints of a penny going in versus what it produces for you. So you have to remember that that's part of you make a simple request that says, hey, provide me a job description, and then it's going out and taking every conversation it's had on that subject and then producing and reproducing based on, and then of course you get to tweak it. You get to say, no, I want this to be more sophisticated or sound more professional or change the tone. I think we talked about it last time. One of my favorite things I learned last year was that ChatGPT was programmed to be male. So, but it didn't know why.
So, I mean, we could ask GPT, its gender, and that's what it would tell us.
Well, no, yeah. And what they found was those that you could ask for specific examples and say, produce something in a particular voice, and then the how the voice would change if you said produce this as a woman would do it.
So, like if Gary or I had like our wife's birthday coming up or something, and we wanted to write some sort of romantic poem, this might be a good resource for us.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Oh yeah.
Good to know. That's
Make
right.
note, Gary.
Valentine's Day is coming up too.
It's coming up.
I could be a hero.
But I mean, what
Probably
this
not.
is coming down to, and you've seen, is that it's really coming down to the new skill that people have to have is the prompting, is that being able to, and that's where I think, and I haven't delved in enough yet to figure out, I've done some preliminary stuff to figure out how to ask the right types of questions, especially if you're going to produce more complicated things like visuals, etc. Right? But prompting is that skill that they're going to be talking about. It's gonna replace some of the administrative back end. So it's going to be like, okay, how do you produce the best job description? How do we make sure that it's saying what we want it to say the way we want it to say it?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I know that something Gary's always brought up in terms of when he talks to local businesses in terms of the needs that they've got from the workforce. It's always been soft skills and communication skills, and I'm wondering when we're going to start hearing them say prompting. We need people. We need better prompting for AI.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the data from late last year, I mean, a lot of the job descriptions that were coming out, in particular with certain things, were the capability to do. They may not have said it as prompting, but to have some knowledge of how to use AI in different softwares. So that's where I tell folks, make sure that what you're currently using or thinking of using, if it has it, what can you do with it? And so that's why when we get back to, Microsoft, their stuff, and they just put out the app for what they're calling Copilot, which is going to be baked into all of the Microsoft software. You can download an app, but I mean, basically, if you've gone on to Word or any of the traditional, software stuff in Office, those kind of things, it's got the AI little thing there where now it'll give you prompts to go, okay, do you want to say it this way or that way? It starts learning what you're doing, and it will start asking you how you want to update those things. So Microsoft has it. Bard obviously is the Google version of that. So on the software side, you've got their version of it. And of course, if you use Gmail, I mean, they've been doing this for months now, where basically it will help you build out your email much better than you could. You could ask within Gmail, hey, write me an email for this purpose, and it'll do it for you. At least, again, as the start point, and then you have to tweak it. But as you use it more and more often, it learns what your needs are and will do it within the voice that you end up using and addressing things that way.
So these are the sound like the meat and potatoes and the primary platforms that these major companies, Microsoft, Google, whatnot, are using and making available to us. Are there other other platforms or apps or tools that you're seeing that you're encouraging or suggesting that some of your small businesses or entrepreneurs work with to help their businesses?
Well, I mentioned last time, and I've done this almost every time since I try to keep these updated as well, which is the places where you can search for the latest and greatest, but also stuff that's just been around for a while. And I mentioned last time, Futurepedia and AI Tools Directory are kind of where the AI ones are being pushed and promoted. There's a new one now, which I think it's only within the last couple of months. It's called There's an AI for That. It's literally the website is There's an AI for That. And you can do a search on, what, and again, the people are just basically taking an old concept and usually just kind of tweaking it with the AI being a huge component of it. So you can find those things there. But if you even go back to some of the older ones, which are basically, I think I've recommended them in the past, like GetApp is a good one for doing comparative searches on software that exist. And then they have an AI category or ones that ask, how much more does it cost if it has the AI component? The other one I like for that is called Beta List. So those are really good for like trying to find the things that are currently out there and what's being done with them. But like I said, I would dare say, if you've got something, I'd take a look at it, because one that we've talked about a lot in the past that they jumped on board pretty quick in the last year was Canva, which fantastic marketing tool. Most small businesses will even pay for that product because it's such a good product for doing their social media and creating designs, all that kind of stuff. They've even baked into it their version, different AI products for developing images as well as helping with some of the verbiage, those kind of things. So looking at what already exists and how you can take advantage of it is, I think, really important for folks to take a look at. Ones that we've been considering in our realm, which I thought if you wanted to take a look at, because I've been kind of impressed with what they do, is I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but Validator AI had been around for a little while. And it's like, you put in your business idea and it'll kick out a short form analysis of the concept. So even if it's, we've tested it. The one I tested with, I have moving to a place with infinite number of apartment complexes. And I love trivia. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if you could market a trivia night to the apartment complexes? Bars and breweries, places like that always do that, but keeping people right where they're at, they don't have to travel if you go. I thought I put that into it, and it was very interesting. Like I mentioned, I did it with a couple of different AIs. Bard did the exact same thing. Like I mentioned earlier, it had a more robust answer, very similar to ChatGPT, but then I put it into this validator and a couple others and got very similar results, but a way more expansive thing, at least as a start off point. Again, and of course, it's like most of these things, a freemium, because it'll let you get bits and pieces because it doesn't cost much. But then if you really want to get anything out of it, they've got to pay for the computing power. The other one that was very similar that we've been testing over the last couple of months is called VentureKit.ai. Very similar. What I liked there is it produces a SWOT analysis that's at least at the freemium level very useful. So I thought that was great too. The other one I've been very impressed with, and I haven't looked at the costing because thankfully we get it through the school, is Adobe is up their game with all of the AI stuff. You've probably seen the commercials using the generative AI to update. You could take a picture and tweak it and do all sorts of crazy things with it that you used to have to have all these skills with Adobe being taught to you. But now you could basically say, you could tell it to, well, take that part of the picture out, put something else in and tweak it, or generate something wholly different, So Adobe's been fantastic. They got, I think it's called Firefly is the one that's the experimental version, but then their Creative Cloud stuff has all these different things in it. I'm not sure if it's cost effective for a small business, but what I do recommend those is that if you've got people that you're paying for these things, we talked about before, is that if they're talking about increasing their prices, they're getting all these different things that you've been paying for, whether it's copywriting services or marketing services or any sort of audiovisual stuff. There's so many more shortcuts now that the providers have that, their efficiency should be passed on to you. So if their costs are going up, it's going in the wrong direction. So something to keep in mind.
So when the marketing or PR or social media, the company that you've been working with is coming with the annual price increase, it's time to push back.
I mean, it depends on what the needs are, but yeah, I mean, I would think that, especially if it's like we're going to do a whole site redesign and new graphics, new this, new that, and they're not doing anything too spectacular. One of my favorites, because visual stuff's tough for AI. If you've experimented with it all, it can't handle the verbiage within the pictures, and it'll screw up humans for some reason. But one of my favorites is this site, Ideogram. I'm trying to remember. It's ideogram.ai. I've actually worked with a couple clients who asked, like, I need an example, and we ran some of their concepts through, and they got some really decent results as a starting off point for producing a logo, because it's real tough for it to do things between the abstract and realistic. But this one does a really good job. I was impressed.
Okay.
So
good deal. So now we have all these tools out there. I mean, there are probably some small businesses that might be listening to us that do marketing or offer social media. I mean, who's at risk out there, or when are we going to be replaced by the bots, Todd? What are the risks out there as you start to play with some of this AI stuff?
I think the interesting thing is it's a tool just like anything else. And while it makes all of these types of jobs easier, it doesn't replace the fact that you still have to have, people doing actual things. It's interesting. I know people are really afraid of it, and I do think in certain cases there are places where, because the efficiencies found are meaning you can cut back on the number of administrative support positions or some of these marketing and copywriting positions. But at the end of the day, you still need a human that's going to review it, because number one, the AI can give you false information. It can give you stuff that isn't particularly pertinent. And in other cases, I think the other concern down the line is going to be, especially if you look at the copyright and trademark issues that you're starting to see arise when, we could create a Jeff bot pretty easily where it looks and sounds like you. Oh yeah, we can replace we can do a Jeff bot that can look and sound like you, to make sure though that it's not being done in a way that Jeff doesn't want it done.
That wouldn't leave much.
Yeah, no. I mean, I have a whole dark side that I really don't show to the internet. I try to keep that pretty close. So anyway, well,
that's another podcast show.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
the dark side of Jeff Neuville.
Yeah, we'd get a couple listeners, but anyway, well. Todd, any other thoughts as we sort of wrap up our updates here?
Well, like I said, I would the key thing I would remind folks is go back to their tools, whether it's the ones they already have or if they're looking at it, and to figure out what does it add to the functionality of it. Like I said, we were looking back at some of the you've got it to a point now where you can work in spreadsheets, and it can do some of the functions that used to take people years to learn. And now you can just ask it to do that and not create this long. It's not, so it's efficiencies, productivity. It's not replacing. But in any industries, we've seen many over millennia now. When you get that, it doesn't necessarily mean jobs are gone. It just means there is a cutback to the need for the numbers. So,
well, and I think it also does impact the sort of skill sets that people might be looking for. Whether it's just familiarity with AI or whatnot. I mean, to some degree, from a manufacturing perspective, there's many jobs that have been traded out for automation, and it's really the same model of things advancing and skill sets changing, and so time marches on.
Some jobs go away, other jobs are being created.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
So, Todd, it is always a pleasure. Sometimes you make us think and our heads hurt a little bit, but that is okay. We like that. So you're expanding our thoughts here. So that's good. We always like to do our lightning round and ask you to participate. I've diligently worked not using AI to come up with some new questions, but maybe I should be using AI. I don't know. We'll see how they match up. But you ready to join us for a quick lightning round?
As ready as I can be.
All right. Well, this month's lightning round is sponsored by Globo Gym. Do you need to lose some weight and get in shape? You should go to someone else's gym. But if you already look good, you go to Globo Gym. You should check them out on the internet. So we've got some quick answers. Don't overthink it, Todd. First off, what is your favorite cartoon character?
Bugs Bunny.
Sweet, salty, or sour?
Salty.
We talking snacks or your disposition?
Probably both.
If you were an Olympic athlete, what sport would you compete in?
If I were in an Olympic, is there competitive chair sitting?
AI.
Not yet. All right, we're going to let that one pass. Here's this one. Let me know what you think about this one. If you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, which apps would you keep?
Oh, wow. That's a... wow, that's tough.
This might not be a good lightning round question.
No, this is not a good lightning. Not for
thoughts.
That does require some thoughts. The 3 that would have probably stayed no matter what is Gmail or an email app of some sort. That one gets used more than any others. Do we count the phone, or do we count the camera or the built-in ones that have to be there?
We're not going to count the camera. We're not going to count the phone option, but something that you might have had to download.
Something that has to be done. Shoot. Probably the different browsers. That's the other one, because you can do a lot with depending on which one's there. And then, probably just whatever I got for photos.
Okay. Yeah, Gary's looking at his phone.
I don't have 3 apps.
What he would get rid of? I don't know.
I only have 2.
Gary has a flip phone. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, last question for you, Todd. What is your spirit animal?
Sorry.
I always go with the fox.
The fox?
Yep,
Okay.
that's a good one. That's
All right.
good.
All right.
Well, that's what my name means.
What, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. All right. Well, Todd, it is always a pleasure. We always enjoy having you on, and look forward to talking with you more than once a year. But if people want to find you and the Wake Tech Small Business Center, where should they be looking?
Well, as I always say, if you just Google Todd Lyden, you're usually going to find me. There's still only one other guy in Minnesota, I think it is, that shares my name that pops up even hardly at all. But and I'm on all the socials. So I mean, I always tell folks that if you can't find me, you're just not looking.
All right. Well, it's Lyden with the Lyden. So if you're
Yes,
looking
sir.
for Todd, that's do some Googling and you'll find him out there. So it's always a pleasure. And I think you can probably also Google Wake Tech Small Business Center and find some of the good works that Todd is doing out there as well. So appreciate you joining us today. Yeah, we always like to wind up by giving a shout out or highlighting some businesses that we might have come across. Todd, anything that you want to throw out to us this go around?
Yeah, we ran to the beach over the break, and on the way back stopped in Burgaw, which most people are probably not familiar with because it's a little town off of 40, just north of Wilmington. And they've done some really good things. A guy who used to be a tech guy, tech guy, he has done a lot of investing in the town and created both a pizza place, and we stopped at Burgaw Brewing, which was the second uh, business that he helped fund there. It was a really great little location in their downtown, great food. And then what he's done is started a competition for a third, which I guess is going to come online this year sometime, I think, called Own Your Own. And there's going to be his third. He did a whole competition. It was really interesting to learn about. But Burgaw Brewing was really good. Nice little place there if you're heading down 40 towards Wilmington or coming back.
Okay, sounds good.
Very good.
Gary, what do you got this month?
Mine's one we talked about in our production meeting last month, and it's not a small business, but it's new to North Carolina. At least it's new to me. And they moved into Mooresville, and I think they're in a couple other places. It's called The Habit Burger Grill. Todd, have you heard of it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's started in Santa Barbara, California many years ago, but it's basically stayed out west, but they are now venturing into North Carolina, of which Mooresville was one. Great burgers, great fries, great salads, great desserts. You know me, I'm a junk food addict, so but it's really good. Has a little bit of that California high price, but it is good quality. So I recommend people going through Mooresville. I think they may have one in Raleigh and in Charlotte area. So
okay, what's the name of it again?
The Habit, Habit.
Okay,
Burger Grill.
The Habit Burger
or just
Grill.
The Habit.
Yeah, our listeners, our longtime listeners, must think you weigh 300 pounds because you really call out the food. The fact of the matter is,
that's right up my.
You're pretty damn skinny for a guy that
I stress it off.
That seems to enjoy the food.
Oh, by the way, they do have good milkshakes and malts.
Okay, I mean, I'll take your word for it. All right, so I'm going to give a shout out to a company called the Battery Exchange, battery with the letter X, change. It's actually a business that I found out about when I attended the NC Idea Summit this past November in Raleigh. But it was started by two fraternity brothers at Winston-Salem State University here in North Carolina, Desmond Wiggin and Aubrey Yaboa, who they were actually studying in China one semester. Their phones ran out of juice. They were stuck in a country where they did not speak the language and weren't sure how they were going to get back to their campus. Ultimately, they figured it out, but it struck an idea of it's a relatively common problem where people run out of battery power and they're not always carrying around a cord, or they might not have access to an outlet. So they came up with a business idea where they are creating kiosks where you can get a charger and it's got cords for different phones. So you can charge your Android phone or your Apple phone or whatnot from it. And the business side, they've created these kiosks. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're on campus at Winston-Salem State, and they're looking at various campuses and public places to put these kiosks. You can actually get a charger for 4 hours for free. They make their money by doing advertising on their kiosk and getting paid for the advertising there. So, you do have to use their app, and I think there will be some charge if you don't actually return the battery, but you'll have 4 hours to use it. So interesting business model.
Mm-hmm.
They've received some grants to help scale it. But you can check them out at www.batteryexchange.co and give it a look, and and we'll see how they progress. But just a cool, interesting idea there. So anyway, thank you, Todd, for joining us today. You're always a great way to start off our new season of the Entrepreneur Exchange. And
this is great learning about AI.
Yeah, you're going to drag Gary and I into the future, despite our screaming and complaining.
Or we might just replace you. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it could be our last season.
This may not even be Todd.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
We want to thank our friends at the Mesh Podcast Network. If you go to themesh.tv, you can see all the podcasts that they're doing with everything from sports, comedy, public interest, business. So check out themesh.tv. And we wish everybody a safe and prosperous 2024. And we'll look forward to talking with you again next month.
Take care.